Welcome, everyone. It's Matt, and today we're going to talk about Dynamax flying analysis for May 2025. All right. Today, which is May 13th for when I am making this video, trainers can now participate both in shadow raids with the remote pass, and remote raid limits have been increased from 5 to 10. But starting at the beginning of next week, we will be also able to do max battles remotely by using remote raid pass as well. I know I've said this before. I just kind of want to say this again. This is very important. I know some trainers have thought, well, this doesn't help me. I disagree. What we could start to do is start building more trainers that are interested in learning on how to do max battles and be able to invite them into battles with other groups, which will allow people to get more battles overall. Is it expensive? A little bit, but at least now, if you're stuck in the rural areas without anyone that could help, you've at least got a much better option to be able to do it with a group of people. All right, we are going to stick with flying types here. Charmander takes ground, rock, and water, increased damage, and has a CP of 560 and min 516. I know he's not fire, but Charizard is. Charmander does take a reduced fire damage from bug, fairy, fire, grass, ice, and steel. But when it is evolved to Charizard from Charmander to Charmeleon to Charizard, taking 125 candy total, you get a pretty interesting overall elemental weaknesses and strengths. Takes 156% damage to rock, which can be very useful if you're fighting Gmax Charizard again at some point later down the line. Also takes electric and water extra damage at 60%. But Charizard takes a pretty large reduction in damage in general, including fairy, fighting, fire, ground, and steel, and 60.9% bug and grass. The combination between fire and flying gives a lot of interesting resistances for elements in general and gives some weaknesses which tend to flow mostly amongst themselves. Charizard stats, 223 attack is actually low for a fire type, and also flying. Flying types generally have pretty high attacks as well. Its defense is average for most Pokemon, but for fire types, it is above average, and its HP is a little below average. The moveset for Charizard, we have really two major movesets that we could think about. For D-Max, flying, and specifically flying, we're going to choose Air Slash. I know for fire, we usually chose Fire Spin. Wing Attack and Ember, just really not worth the Elite TM moves. If you can't upgrade to them, that is great. Do I suggest that you have both types? Not really, but if you have a Wing Attack, and then you probably are going to want to spend a little bit into Ember. For Gmax, though, I highly suggest you do put your best Charizard with Dragon Breath, that 0.5 second attack move, and Dragon type means that it won't get resisted a great deal, and 0.5 second attack moves are really, really good. And with the Gmax, you will always be doing fire damage anyways for your transformation, so you're really not losing that much damage overall. For the Charizard rankings, for fire types, we have the Gmax, Dmax, but since we're talking about flying, it is our weakest flying attack. And from a tank, it's only slightly below average, and for a healer, it is our worst as well. Charizard's much better in general for fire than flying. So really, if you're going to really want to focus at this point, I would consider Charizard to be mainly for Gmax only. And if you're going to focus on a Dmax, you're really going to still try to focus primarily on the flying type because of the unique resistances that it has. But really, the better unit to really focus on, if you can, is Moltres. Moltres has the same increased damage as Charizard, as they're both flying fire types. Moltres takes increased damage from rock at 256%. That is by far its weakest. And it will take also 60% electric and water. It is strong and only takes 63 of the 70, or reduces damage of fairy fighting, fire, ground, and steel, and only takes 39% of the overall damage from bug and grass. CPs you're looking for is 1980, floor is 1896, and almost all of the Moltres I've had is in the 1930s, which unfortunately means I did not get the greatest IVs, but still, it's a tank that I am building and planning on using for some time. Its attack 251 is pretty high. Its defense 181 is pretty much meh, but it's at least got a better HP as well at 207. For the fast attack, if you're going flying type, you're going to want wing attack. If you're going fire type, you want fire spin. You really only need to have good news as one Moltres. And basically, if you're going to switch between fire and flying, you just need to spend one fast TM, not an elite TM, just a fast TM. And it will be very easy, as it will always flip-flop between these two. From an attacker standpoint, it is top tier for flying. As a tank, even though it's not that much better than Charizard, it is still on the high end of the tank flying. And healer is also pretty much on the high end. Overall, I know from the fire, I've told people if you can invest in Moltres to invest. But from the flying type, it is still a top tier unit Pokemon to invest in as well. And I highly suggest doing so. Next is Rookidee. Right now, I am working on the Rookidee mock-up. When I am done, I will be posting it on this as well. Rookidee takes increased damage from electric, ice, and rock. It does not take the extreme damage, as Rookidee is only flying. Rookidee also takes reduced damage from bug, fighting, and grass, and double resistant to ground. Rookidee CPs, so when we're getting it in a week and a half for Max Mondays, you'll be going for 344 to 380, with 380 being your hundo. Going from Rookidee to Corviknight requires 125 candy, and you get Corvisquire in between. Corviknight is really interesting as it only has two weaknesses. They're somewhat normal to fight against, though, electric and fire, at take 60% damage. But it does have an absolute massive amount of resistances. Dragon, Fairy, Flying, Ground, Normal, Psychic, and Steel takes 37.5% less damage and 60.9% less damage of Bug, Grass, and Poison. Its attack at 163 is very low. It is the lowest for any of the flying. Defense of 192 is the highest, and stamina 221 is very good as well. For the fast moves, it's pretty obvious that you're going to stick with Air Slash if you're going with flying, Steel Wing if you're going to be going with steel. Sand Attack is a 0.5 second move, but you don't get the same type of ability bonus. I prefer not to. When we get the Gmax, then you should switch to Sand Attack, as that will give you the 0.5 second attack move. But from a taking standpoint, I highly suggest that you stick with Air Slash or Steel Wing, depending on the element you so desire. Charge moves are all pretty fast, but you're going to be fighting Rookidee to get Corviknight, so don't really have to worry about any of the charge moves in general. And we're just going to be focusing on flying. Corviknight is an all-or-nothing unit. It is the worst attacker. And for flying units, I would consider it quite weak of an attacker, obviously at being the lowest of my scale. But from a tank and healer, it is the most useful. For steel, it is not as useful as Metagross, but in general, I still think you should upgrade Corviknight, as it will be incredibly useful as a tank and healer. With it being able to mitigate damage, it should be able to keep its shields up for a very long time and give you the opportunity to bounce in and out over longer periods of time. Finally, we have Pidove. Pidove is an interesting unit. It takes increased damage from electric, ice, and rock, reduces damage from bug and grass, and double resistance on ghost and ground. The IVs that you're looking for Pidove is between 443 and 484, with 484 being the hundo. Unfezant upgrades a lot cheaper at only 62 candy for Unfezant. It takes electric, ice, and rock at 60% and still has the same overall reduced damage as well. Its attack is 226 with its defense 146 and stamina 190. We're going to stick with flying right now for the Unfezant. It's not it's not good for steel. It is a flying and normal type, hence the weird overall elements that is strong against. And generally we just pick Air Slash for Unfezant as it's really only a good flying attacker anyways. From an attack standpoint, it's very good, with it being the worst tank and a poor healer. Right now, Moltres is our best attacker. Unfezant is basically the poor person's version of Moltres. Unfezant's a lot easier to get and a lot easier to get candies of. So if you don't have a Moltres or you just have nowhere near the amount of candy, I would upgrade your Pheasant to level 3 attack and level 40 and just stick them there until you have enough for your Moltres to shine. All right, for flying damage overall, Moltres and Unfezant are pretty much the same. Charizard is just behind Unfezant. If you want to do Charizard instead of Unfezant as your damage dealer, that is also pretty acceptable, as it only is about 2 levels difference between your Charizard and Pheasant. And if you have your Charizard at level 42 or 43 already for your Dynamax, don't level up Unfezant. It's just not worth it. Moltres is the powerhouse. It does outproduce, but in general, those 3 are by far what you're going to be looking for to attack. Corviknight is not that far behind. It is your lowest flying attacker. It is only trailing between 50 and 60% between Moltres. So it does make a decent dual attack. But if your Moltres can survive the attack, then you might be going that route anyways. All right, so we have our top 2 flying units for each role. Our attackers is going to be Moltres and Unfezant. And generally, Moltres is the better flying attacker. Unfezant can only attack. And you notice here that we've got a pretty consistent rankings right now. When we do get Corviknight, it is going to be our best tank and healer, and it's not really that close. Yes, you could argue that by pure numbers, Moltres can be a good tank, but Corviknight just has a much wider range of overall elements and super strong elements that it very resistance with. That is going to be by far the best defender or tank. And from a healer standpoint, it does have a little bit more HP as well. If you're going to really take 2 units for flying, I highly suggest Corviknight and Moltres. You might have Charizard already, which would make Unfezant not needed. And overall, Unfezant was useful for the early part. Now, if you've got a leveled up Unfezant and you don't have and you want your Charizard to be Dynamax Charizard specifically to be only fire-based, that is okay as well, as those 2 are all roughly the same. And with that, that's all that we have. I do apologize. I'm trying to make as many videos as I can this week with this cold, but I am slowed down, and the voice does require a lot more rest than normal. But please like and subscribe, as that greatly helps my channel. On top of it, I have a membership society here on YouTube. You'll be thanked in my videos for that. And I know that I should have my Discord up by now, but this cold and some other things have slowed me down. Once I get enough, we'll get a special Discord area for everybody as well. You can also catch me on Twitch and ask me questions. I know a few of you have already. When I am live, I'm happy to answer questions. Don't feel bad. I know I had one that felt so sorry that was interrupting me, quote unquote, from my game, but it makes it a lot more interesting. And I enjoy interacting with people as much as possible. But with that, I will try to actually be better and do better as well. So you all have a good one. Good luck, and I'll see you on the next one.